The history of womankind and mankind and art history is born out of Africa and our journey across the 7 continents of the world. And here we are at a turning point.
Chapter 5, The Drummer and the Fife. In a 5th grade text, Application of Mathematics, I answered the Vocabulary and Concepts review of Chapter 7 on length as follows.
So the whole description here is about, how we measure time and how we measure music and how we measure our feelings. And this ends with a quote, a Rumi poem quote about pulling a reed from the reed bed and we poke holes in it and we never realize that what we're hearing is the flute. When the flute is being played, it's longing to go home. The reed is longing to go home.
Oh, he loves.
So these are the kinds of metaphors and symbols, personal iconography that I use in all of my artworks. And I hope that if this interests you, you'll all come back and spend more time with each of these. But you get the idea. But this is one I'm going to let go through. It's a short text, and it sort of gets to the heart.
Chapter 6, Harriet Tubman's Railroad Today, October 1837. We are carried by destiny along our life's course, looking as grave and knowing as little as the infant who is carried in his wicker coach through the street. Ralph Waldo Emerson. My sister Lynn told me she saw a documentary on the History Channel about women's right to vote, that women at the conference had said that it took George Washington 7 days to get enough men to sign the petition to be free from England. It took 77 years for women to get the right to vote. I wonder how long it will take for children to be relieved of the bondage of sexual slavery, indentured servitude, and other forms of abuse.
So that's what Nadine Burke Harris, our Surgeon General in the state of California, has said. We can end child abuse in the next 30 years if everyone joins the movement and speaks up without shame, without blame, without guilt, without rage, to get people the help they need. This is an epigenetic intergenerational problem. And when you are abused as a child, your DNA gets misread and it makes you prone to become an alcoholic, an addict, and die from 7 of the 10 causes of adult death 20 years earlier than your peers without it. So we just want to prevent this from happening and get the people who are still suffering like I was, the kind of help that's available today. Because when my parents got caught molesting me and my brothers, there was no Sex Addicts Anonymous. There was no recovery from sex addiction. But today, all of these programs are available and people can heal from this. Nadine Burke Harris says ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, are treatable and ACEs are beatable. We can beat this problem. And I'm begging everyone to join the movement as she does in her TED Talk. So I hope you'll Google her name and put Nadine Burke Harris TED Talk and listen to her. It changed my life. So I think that this is enough. There's just a couple more of these in this. There's 12 in this series, and they are laid out in a rainbow. This is transcribed the text from the movie Amistad. I don't know if you're aware of Spielberg's film called Amistad. Amistad is, I think it's French, a French word that means friendship. So the kind of uh, terror that this man was on trial for trying to break out of the bondage of slavery, that John Quincy Adams defended him in a court of law. He called on his ancestors to help him, and John Quincy Adams called on our forefathers to help him defend this man from Africa who did not want to be enslaved. And that's what I'm asking everybody to call on your ancestors and say, we forgive every bit of this. It was part of, we couldn't even drink water. We had to drink alcohol before. Now we don't. And we can heal from these problems that are so devastating to the quality of life for children and adults.
I'm wishing for the one I love to find me. Chapter 10. The ugly duckling breaks her cosmic egg.
So this is a myth that I lived under. My dad told me I was an ugly duckling, and one day my prince would come and he would do these things for me. And by the way, you have to swear to God never to tell on me. This is my dad, to stealing my love and my trust. Saying that one day I'd grow breasts like my older sisters and my mother, and I would have these experiences when it was more appropriate, and that I was getting language, and he was in trouble, and it was all my fault, and you can never speak of this ever again, and you have to swear never to say anything about it. So that has caused me such deep twists in my personality and colored my life in ways that made me an artist. I couldn't talk, so I painted from the third grade on. I began using a paintbrush. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So this kind of stuff did not come out easily, and you can see it's very messy and it's very strangling. This is a woman holding a goose. That's my mother in my world. And here I am with, my throat choked off by my dad and my promise or my oath to never tell on him. So one day at a time, the higher power has given me this kind of creativity to unmask all of these issues. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, what I went through as a kid. So that's it. That's the last one, I believe. We got to the purple. Oh no, this is the last one. This is speaks to Alex Katz's paintings and Georgia O'Keeffe's paintings. Alex Katz's wife, in his portraits of her, she always wore these sunglasses. And the bear is, I was tied up and raped as a child, but not long after my dad stopped molesting me, by a pedophile in a public park. And I came out of a bathroom and he said, the bear went over the mountain? And I said, yeah. I said, let's sing and see if we can see. And we walked up this hill. He hiked me up on his hip and he said, if you scream, I'll kill you. And then he started to about break my arm because I was pushing off with my legs against him. And so this bear is a symbol of my pedophile rapist at age 6. And you will see this over and over again in my artwork, just as you see a swan painted over and over and over again while I'm waiting for my prince to come. So one day at a time, more is revealed, the booby prize of recovery, because, you just don't know where the bottom of this tar pit goes. But I am over the river and through the woods because of people like you being here. to help me temper and redirect my hard feelings. And to be a channel for children who are still up against this kind of crap that does not have to exist anymore. We can stop it. So my patron saint is Nadine Burke Harris, and she's made preventing and healing ACEs the #1 priority of the state of California. And all people are being screened who are on Medi-Cal for childhood trauma from age 0 to 65 today. So this was the second exhibit that the higher power had me doing, and I'll tell you that this one was very hard. I had been teaching art to children in the Bayview Hunters Point area, and every year there would be a child who would come to me and tell me how their parents had been so mean and did this, that, and the other. And it would trigger this like immediate visceral response. And I didn't know that I had all these issues. But I couldn't send the invoices after having taught these kids for many months. And when I did a thought record that I'd learned to do in Kaiser, that's when I finally remembered that I couldn't speak up for myself because my dad might go to jail. And that's when that was the end of it for me. I was just so angry that I was still holding.
Chocolate in the Garden, August 23rd, 2006, 9:19 p.m.
So here's a poem. You can come back and listen to it. Chocolate is all the dark places that I've had to explore. The bottom line in this series was my higher power had me looking up. And so these are all paintings all made from photographs of cherry blossoms at the Laguna Heights Cooperative where I was living with my husband. And the message was, just keep looking up. It's going to get better. This will change. This too will pass. You need
Chocolate in the Garden, Plum Tree Skies
at Laguna. The whole story is here, and I read it to you if you care to jump in the deep end. But I'll just let you enjoy Jonathan's music. Jonathan Sachs is a longtime collaborator. He's done all the music for almost every show I've ever done. He's a composer from LA who works closely with Randy Newman to orchestrate all of his films.
Chocolate in the Garden, August 23rd.
So this was a very simple exhibit that see if I can. Go on to the next show. So I hope you'll come back if this isn't too overwhelming for you, knowing what's behind all of these exhibits. This is a series of paintings. This one I did first when we first moved to this site on Bush Street between Fillmore and Webster. There's a little tree around the corner that I took hundreds of photos of, this little cherry tree, and discovered there were power lines behind it. So this show was called Power Lines, Cherry Tree Skies, and then this one was Plum Blossoms, which I did several months later in the same year. And it was of photos that I had taken in our former place on Valentine's Day in 2010. So I was trying to find beauty in the darkness of what I had found myself uncovering in my life. So there's the little cherry tree in it's on the corner of, if you ever are at California and Webster, you'll see this little tree, and you can see that it's right next to this power pole. And I never noticed when I was taking the photos that the tree was, like a foil for the tree was all these power lines behind it. On the power line. So this is right across the street from Sheriff Israel Temple, California and Webster. Didn't see that when I took the picture. So how one struggles, whether you're a young tree trying to grow healthily in a city that's congested and just surrounds you with these kinds of overwhelming power lines, is also another metaphor, another layer of this uncovering of the interactions between humans and plant life. In this case, just how we interact with each other. What's best for what's best for us.
Heidi, can you hear
Yeah.
me? Yeah, you're not that audible because of the music. So,
Okay. Let's see if I can stop the music. Or we're almost done with the show. So I'll just keep going and I won't talk. You can just see the.
okay.
That's it for these two exhibits, and the title of this show, when I put it together in the gallery, I called it Discovering True Love, because it took me all these years to understand what had been happening to me.
Yeah, do you need to exit the exhibition? Then you
Yes.
just need to exit the full screen. Exit the full
Okay.
screen. Yeah. And then
Okay,
refresh
thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
It really pays to have young people around when you're frustrated by your things like that we're talking about, as well as just being not too tech savvy. All right, so this is the last exhibit. I'm going to try and get out of here before the next 10 minutes so we can talk about how this lands on you guys, how many of you I've known for decades, and I am so grateful. And some of you are
It's okay, Heidi. We are here.
and some of you are brand new to my life, and I'm equally grateful to you for being here.
Let it out, Heidi.
Thank you.
Heidi Hardin's artist statement. Written
So
October
this one is this probably was the hardest show for me to put together, because I finally put pictures of myself from kindergarten through the 12th grade from the school photos, and then put the to-do lists that were part of my memory of what I had to do in each grade to protect my parents from what they had done and what they were doing. So I don't want to. It was so bad that I couldn't read the text myself. I had to let the computer read it for me. So I'm just going to go through and I'll let you hear one of these maybe, but I will shut the sound off. But I'll let you see some of these collages.
A girl's hole is the earth.
So this was one of the first paintings I ever did in graduate school. This is me, my brother Mark, and my brother Chris, and we're called in a later painting the survivors because we're the ones who took the brunt of my parents' mental illnesses and addictions. And these two are still out there using and suffering, and I've been sober 33 years, and it's taken me all this time to remember what happened and be in a place where I'm ready to, speak openly about this stuff and try and be a part of the solution for getting help too, and part of the circle of recovery for families who need this kind of help. In fact, our company, Think Round, just had a new trauma incident reduction for people in recovery who had childhoods not dissimilar to mine, and it started this morning. So I'm very grateful for the program Turning the Tide of Trauma, whom we partnered with in 2015 or 16, after I went through the trauma incident reduction program at Kaiser that she offered there. It completely changed my life, helped me get my feet on the ground and my head on straight.
Kindergarten to-do list. It is 1958. I am 5 years old. Never offer to give your kindergarten classmates blowjobs. Only give blowjobs to family. If you get caught, when they ask where you learned such a thing, don't tell them it was from your dad. Never swear to God because it is a sin.
So that is the not rigorous honesty, but the radical honesty that it's taken for me to get to where I am today. And I appreciate your patience with me in my need to confront my dad and his illness, and my mother and her illnesses in this way.
First grade to-do list. It is 1959.
So here's the bear. The bear has entered my life. I've been tied up and raped, and this cat sitting on my head is my sexuality is completely moved up into my head, and here's an angel watching over me. And every time you'll see a picture of me from here on out, you'll see a stone in my throat, because it's that swear that I made to never tell. And then right after my dad left my room, I made a second swear to myself that I would never have children if this is how parents treat their children.
Second grade to-do list.
So here are the swears, 1, 2. And this is the closest I ever came to having children. I was a bluebird, and we made little baby beds and got these little baby dolls. And here's a bear that's sitting on the baby's chest. And here's the nickel that my dad used to always say, if it costs more than a nickel, you can't afford it. So there's a whole long to-do list that goes with it. Not long, some of them are very short, but you can listen to these if you choose to.
Third grade to-do list. It is 1961.
So by this time, I've sort of left the building. My parents are divorcing. My dad's gotten his head chopped off, and my mother's taking us out of the picture. And I'm looking for things that fly, like Tinkerbell, that are and cranes and swans. I don't want to see books and plates and this flying.
Fourth grade to-do list. It is 1962. I am 9 years old.
just completely dissociated. Dissociation has been the watchword for my need to be in a flight from reality. And mostly my life as an adult has been trying to get back into my body and to be able to come to some level of acceptance and integration of these experiences. Well, first remembering them
5th grade to-do list.
and then accepting them. So swans have been, I painted hundreds and hundreds of swans before I knew what this was all about. I had no idea. You're an ugly duckling and one day you'll become a swan and your prince will come and he'll do this for you. So that's that kind of rock. This is a huge agate that I, now have in my throat. And the only thing that I can do is paint like Curious George does in that story of him being a painter. And here's the bear monitoring my life.
6th grade to-do list.
This is my stepdad. My parents divorced. My mother remarried a diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic medical doctor who, when he went off his medications, he battered. And the first time he battered my mother, I called the police and he grounded me off the phone for 6 months and then threw everything in the refrigerator and in all the drawers and all the cabinets on the floor and made me clean it up while he raped her all night long. It was just like that for 2 years. It was like that with these two until I told my sister Kay
7th grade to-do list. It is 1965. I am 12 years old. Another 7th grade to-do list.
Between one 7th grade portrait and this 7th grade portrait, I left my mother and moved in with my dad and my stepmom. And so that's it. And once I moved in
8th grade to-do list.
dad, we just drank. I began drinking in the 7th grade, and I was the bartender. Every night I'd make bourbon and 7-Up for the three of us. And I would do my homework and study. That's it. That was my life. Drinking and studying. And my parents bought booze for me and my friends so that we didn't have to drink and drive.
9th grade to-do list. It is 10th grade to-do list.
So all of these.
12th grade to-do list. It is 1970. I am 17 years old. Score in the top 10% at our school on the SAT. Get accepted to OU and UCSD. Switch bourbon and 7-Up for tequila when you get to California.
So that's my story from kindergarten through 12th grade. And this next one is the silver lining. And I hope you'll come back and listen to this. And it'll tell you what I learned from all of that at that time. Because I have a story that was published in a book. And it's called Happily Ever Now. So this is the last exhibit. It's called Oklahoma is Not Okay. But my MFA show back in 1979 was Oklahoma is Okay, Seasonal Rituals 1959. And so I had started painting in my childhood to remember what the hell happened to me because I didn't remember anything. And so my MFA show was all about my family, and it was all taken from family photos and home movies. And once I got through with that, being as source material, I began to ask other families, can I see what the distilled wisdom is in your family faith? I was raised as a Christian and it was totally chaotic. It did not feel loving. Do you mind if I look in your family photo album? So that's how the Human Family Tree Project, the Paradise Project, began. In 2016, my brothers and I went back to the towns where we lived when my mom and stepdad were in their relationship, and I took a bunch of photos, and then I made these paintings and wrote stories recapturing the traumas behind them. And my poetry group, some of my artists or poetry friends have made poems about this painting, and I'm so grateful that some of them are here tonight, and I appreciate their encouraging me. And there's a word for it, but I forget the name of it, and I'm sure that Jean will tell us all when we can. When I stop sharing, Jean will tell us about, is it euphrastic poetry, that you make paint poems from paintings or artworks. This was
Ekphrastic.
ephrastic. Thank you. This was a trauma that where we all nearly died. We built a raft. This story is called the Raft. We built a raft and launched it in Bear Creek and moved out into the Arkansas River. And we got hung up in what was a sand dredge, and it was nightfall, and we couldn't see, and we lost all our food and nearly our lives. And so that there's a long story that goes with this set of paintings. And these paintings are this shape and dimension because I'm in therapy at this time talking about for PTSD from childhood trauma, talking about the window of tolerance for trauma. You can develop and expand your window of tolerance for these things. So this is a set of paintings. The story that goes with this is called The Survival Test. My stepdad was somewhat sadistic and thought that we were too much of panty waste, and so they blindfolded Chris, Mark, and I and put us in the back of a pickup truck and took us into the sticks. We had no idea where we were, and then it left us for 3 days with no food and water to see if we could survive. And a cowboy fortunately came along and he said, "What are you kids doing in this pasture? There's a bull." And we said, "Yeah, we know. We've seen him at his watering hole." And the guy said, "He killed a man last week. You have got to get off of this property." I don't know. And when he found out that the medical doctor was our father or stepdad, he was horrified. He said, "You've got to get out of here. They'll be here in the next 30 minutes. I'm going to call him right now." So it is what it is, and it takes what it takes. This is another collage that went with the Raft. And this one, this set of paintings goes with a story called The Church. And this is the road that we took to get to church from Pawnee, Oklahoma to Ponca City, where the Episcopal Church was that we went to. And there's an insane story that goes with this set of paintings. And we moved 9 times in 2 years, and that means we had to pack up and leave 9 times. And Mel would always come back. Mel's my stepdad. And so we would, we're always on the road again. And so that's what this is a secondary painting that goes with. Here's another one. This is a photo I took when we went back to these towns with my brothers. And my brother Chris was 13 when we left one time, and he had to drive a moving van this size because we packed up a 3-story home within like 5 hours to get away from Mel. And it just blows my mind that my mother would let a 13-year-old boy drive that big of a truck. And she was driving Mark and I and the dog and all of our personal stuff in a car that followed him. It's just unbelievable. It's no wonder he doesn't want to have his feelings about the way he was treated and the pressure he was under as a kid. Here's another collage that goes with the Raft. We were swallowed by the whale of that dredge and the wires that led to it, and face down death. And it's all in the story. this is the home where we lived, where my stepdad first battered my mother. And these are my brothers Chris and Mark, and I'm back here as Ditch Witch. This is a tower that has a company. There's a company in Oklahoma that is called the Ditch Witch Company, and they manufacture these huge machine equipment that not dredge, but create trenches and dig deep holes for sewer lines and so forth. And so their company is called the Ditch Witch, and so that's me. I'm the Ditch Witch. I just dug and dug and dug until you can't pretend that there's anything left to discover. I found all the silver linings in these difficult experiences, and I know that as a soul, I contracted with my parents to go through these experiences. At least that's what I believe. And my job, or the intention of my soul, is to heal that and to demonstrate how to heal that, and to say that everybody who has broken heartstrings, they can be mended, and the locks are all to heaven on earth, are all on the inside of each of us. And it's our responsibility at this point in our evolutionary path as souls to make the choice to do this digging, to move forward and evolve spiritually, and to protect all the natural resources, from air, water, and soil to plants, animals, and people, especially our children.